Haunted attractions are big business, thriving in every city and small town around the world. With the smallest amount of effort, any one of us can find a nearby attraction ready to make us gasp, shriek, and scream our way through the dark with friends and strangers. These attractions come in the form of houses, mazes, rides, interactive plays, and real-life torture chambers. Some of them have turned into million-dollar franchises like Not Scary Farm and Universal Studios' Halloween Horror Nights, while others are passion projects managed by families or individuals for no other reason than the love of the scare. I'm Cameron West, and on this new series, HauntSeason, we'll be exploring the history, impact, and present-day status of every haunted attraction we can get our hands on. So turn out the lights, check under the bed, and get yourself ready for our very first episode. The origins of haunted attractions date back to the 18th and 19th century Britain and Germany, when literature, performances by magicians, spiritualists, and psychics, as well as theatrical shows and attractions, introduced the public to gruesome entertainment as a way of dealing with the real-life horrors of a war-torn world. Enter phantasmagoria, a form of horror theater that used one or more magic lanterns to project frightening images such as skeletons, demons, and ghosts onto walls, smoke, or semi-transparent screens. In many shows, the use of spooky decoration, total darkness, verbal presentation, and sound effects were also key elements. Some shows even added different kinds of sensory stimulation, including smells and mild electric shocks as methods of making spectators more immersed. The shows started under the guise of actual seances in Germany in the late 18th century and gained popularity through most of Europe, including Britain, throughout the 19th century. In 1802, following the French Revolution and inspired by the real-life horror of the guillotine, Marie Tussaud scandalized British audiences with an exhibition of wax sculptures of decapitated victims of the war. These included King Louis XVI, Marie Antoinette, Robespierre, and Jean-Paul Marat. She dubbed her grotesque collection the Chamber of Horrors, a name that has stuck to the Wax Museum to this day and has been used in one form or another for many haunted attractions since. Building off the success of both the Phantasmagoria and Marie Tussaud's wax exhibit, the Grand Guignol Theatre was established in France in 1897 and quickly became notorious for its onstage depictions of graphic dismemberment. The theater's director, Max Murray, famously boasted that he judged each performance by the number of people who passed out shocked in the audience.
A very palpable hit.
England, 1915, the early years of World War I, a time of curfews and government censorship, of food shortages, zeppelins, and bombing raids. It was a time of hard labor, low pay, and death from just about everything from common venereal disease to the flu. In this world, plagued by the actual horrors of everyday life, people began seeking out local carnivals and fairgrounds as a means of escape. And it was here, at one of these carnivals, that Patrick Collins, a carnival manager, constructed the very first modern walk-through haunted house. Built as a gift for his first wife, Flora Ross, the haunted cottage was no bigger than a train car and a crude example of the houses we know today, but it enabled visitors to do exactly the same thing: get up close and personal with the unknown and the frightening, and come out alive on the other side. Of course, the scares themselves were extremely tame by today's standards, but the real thrill was that all of this happened in the dark. The haunted cottage was a massive success, and coupled with the rising trend of trick-or-treating, cemented the haunted house in place as a facet of the Halloween season. However, it wouldn't be until 54 years later that the haunted house would become a cultural icon. Flash forward to 1955 and the opening of a little theme park in Anaheim, California, a magical place where all who entered were welcomed. Disneyland, as it was called, was a lifelong dream of Walter Elias Disney's, but upon opening, it wasn't fully realized. Plagued with technical problems and money shortages, Walt wasn't able to build one of his originally planned attractions, a haunted walkthrough which would be called the Museum of the Weird. It would take 13 years of wild success to finally build that museum, but when it was unveiled to the public, it had become something else entirely. The museum was no longer a museum, and the walkthrough had been swapped with an Omnimover dark ride. This was the Haunted Mansion, a ride that quickly became the most popular in the park, welcoming 82,000 happy haunts on its first day alone. The Haunted Mansion was a greatest hits of everything that the attractions before it had originated, using the best pieces of each. There were ghostly illusions taken from the Phantasmagoria, the macabre borrowed from the Grand Guignol, animatronics based on the wax figures of the Chamber of Horrors, and the ride took place in the pitch black, just like the Haunted Cottage. All of this together made the Haunted Mansion the gold standard for haunted attractions, and if you talk to almost any professional haunter today, they will point to its influence as one of the biggest inspirations for their work. The success of the Haunted Mansion ignited a fire, and within just a few years, haunted houses boomed across the United States. Other theme parks, like Knott's Berry Farm, not only started to emulate Disney's haunt, but attempted to outdo it with their own full-blown Halloween events. And with people craving more and more, haunts were here to stay. In the years that followed, thousands of haunts would pop up around the world, ranging from small basement-sized haunts to multi-million-dollar events. And as the haunts grew in numbers, they evolved as well, becoming darker, more high-tech, and scarier than anything those original patrons of the Phantasmagoria could have imagined. One thing, however, remained the same. People love to be scared. I'm Cameron West, and this is Haunt Season. And if you like what you saw, stay tuned for more, or hit that subscribe button and help us spread the word.